What if your body was already warning you about a stroke, but you just didn't recognize the signs? Hundreds of thousands of people have a stroke every year, and many of them never get another chance. What if I told you, however, that the body frequently sends out distress signals up to 30 days beforehand? Stroke is more than just a medical illness. It is among the main causes of sudden mortality and long-term impairment worldwide. However, in spite of its risks, the early warning indicators are frequently misinterpreted, disregarded, or completely disregarded. You might be young. You might be in shape. You might eat healthily and work out every day. Strokes, however, are not discriminatory. They can attack the fit, the active, and the unwary. That's why the video from today is important. You're going to discover 7 subtle yet important signs that your body may be utilizing to warn of danger. And believe me, these indicators can mean the difference between being carried in or simply strolling into a hospital. Watch this video through to the end if you've ever worried about your health, your parents' health, or the health of a loved one. It might prevent death. And don't keep this information to yourself, please. Someone might live because just one small share. Let's start with high blood pressure, the most harmful but often disregarded warning sign your body can give. The quiet murderer. The first warning sign is extremely high blood pressure. The silent killer, high blood pressure. Although it might sound familiar, did you know that it is the leading risk factor for both ischemic and hemorrhagic strokes? It's like blowing out a balloon when the blood pressure against the vessel walls is constantly high. The walls get weaker with time. They may burst one day. And a hemorrhagic stroke results if that rupture occurs inside the brain. Alternatively, blood flow is impeded and clots may form if high blood pressure results in atherosclerosis, which is the narrowing and hardening of the arteries. An ischemic stroke occurs when a clot enters the brain and stops blood flow. Red blood flow is progressively reduced as blood arteries narrow. A striking rupture effect using a model of brain tissue. A blood pressure measurement that is higher than 140/90. And what's the most hazardous aspect? Because high blood pressure doesn't hurt or feel uncomfortable, the majority of people with it are unaware that they have it. It is known as the silent killer for this reason. Regularly check your blood pressure, particularly if you're over 50. Don't put off taking action until your body gives out. But does it mean you're safe if you don't have high blood pressure? Not exactly. Fatigue is the next warning symptom, which can appear as something surprisingly typical. You're getting enough rest. You're not exerting yourself excessively. Nevertheless, you feel completely exhausted. This isn't your typical fatigue. This fatigue slows down your every action and clings to you like a thick cloud. Extreme fatigue, especially when it appears suddenly and has no clear explanation, could be an early warning sign of reduced blood flow to your brain. Sometimes, it's a warning sign of a transient ischemic attack, or TI, which is a more dangerous condition. At that point, a portion of the brain's blood supply is momentarily cut off. Although the symptoms resemble a stroke, they go away in a matter of minutes or hours. A woman, fighting to stay awake, is seated at her desk and wiping her eyes. A brain scan overlay displaying a momentary interruption in blood flow. The risk? Most individuals write it off as burnout or stress. However, a TIA is your brain's plea for assistance. It might be a practice run for a serious stroke. Therefore, don't ignore it if you suddenly feel excessively tired for no apparent reason. Seek medical help. And while tiredness can affect your energy, the next warning sign could take away your ability to see clearly. Sudden loss of vision is the third warning sign. Imagine waking up and suddenly having trouble seeing. Everything is doubled up, hazy, or you are unable to concentrate on what is directly in front of you. Vision problems may not seem like an emergency at first, but when they appear out of nowhere and with no explanation, they can be a red flag your brain is in trouble. The areas of your brain that process vision can be impacted by strokes, particularly ischemic strokes. Partial or total vision loss, occasionally in only one eye, can result from a blockage in the occipital lobe or the artery supplying the eye. POV effect that displays double or fuzzy vision. One side of a split screen is clear, while the other is fuzzy. An eye featuring a vascular overlay and animation of blood flow disruption. And don't forget, vision loss can also be a symptom of a transient ischemic attack, another warning shot from the body. Don't assume that screen time or exhaustion is the cause of a rapid change in your vision, especially if it lasts only a few minutes. Seek immediate medical attention. You might see again. However, The following warning sign is more difficult to ignore. Thunderclap headache, which is a lightning-like agony. Warning sign number 4. Abrupt, severe pain. You're going about your day when all of a sudden, you're stopped in your tracks by a severe headache. A dull aching, no, not a headache from tension, but as if someone had thrown a switch, there was a sharp, thunderclap pain. This kind of headache is a serious warning sign for a hemorrhagic stroke, in which a blood artery inside the brain breaks and bleeds. The surrounding brain tissue is harmed as the pressure quickly increases. It is referred to by doctors as the worst headache of your life. And for a lot of people, it's their final, unambiguous warning. A person cringing in anguish, gripping their head in misery. Depiction of a brain with blood rupturing. The thunderclap is simulated with a bright flash effect. It may also indicate a brain aneurysm rupture, which is another potentially fatal situation. The secret? Take urgent action. This is not a case of wait and see. Call emergency services immediately if you or someone close to you has an intense headache. Every minute matters. These kinds of headaches have the power to take you down in an instant. The next sign, though? It can numb half of your body. And your drooping face. Weakness or numbness on one side of the body in warning sign number 5. Just picture your hand refusing to react when you take up your coffee cup. For example, when you smile at someone, they only see one side of your mouth move. Sudden numbness or weakness in the face, arm, or leg, especially on one side of the body, is a hallmark sign of a stroke in progress. It indicates that a portion of your brain isn't receiving the oxygen and blood it really needs. Nerve impulses cease to function. Control over muscles starts to wane. Someone dropping a cup while attempting to hold it. A close-up of a face with one side sagging, shown side by side. An illustration of disturbed blood flow to the brain in a medical setting. Don't assume everything is okay, even if these sensations disappear in a few minutes. You might have had a transient ischemic attack, which is the last warning sign before a serious stroke. It's possible that more brain cells are dying every minute. Your chances of recovering are better the sooner you take action. What occurs when a stroke not only impairs your ability to move, but also eliminates your ability to speak? You can't afford to ignore that next indication. Difficulty speaking or understanding speech warning sign number 6. Consider attempting to pronounce something straightforward, like your name, but having the words appear distorted, slurred, or not at all. Your mouth won't comply, even if you know what you want to say. One of the most concerning indicators of a stroke is sudden trouble speaking or understanding speech. It frequently signals that there is an attack on the language-related part of the brain, which is usually the left hemisphere. Your capacity to communicate may be affected, resulting in a disorder called aphasia, and it might occur at any time. Someone on the phone mouthing random syllables while having trouble forming words. Animation showing the language center of a brain in good health and one with blood flow obstructed. You may sound inebriated, disoriented, or as though you've lost your speech. However, this is a medical emergency, not a language issue. Seek treatment right away if you or someone close to you begins slurring words, having trouble finding the right words, or having trouble understanding basic queries. Don't wait for things to get better. It's terrible to lose your ability to speak. However, stroke symptoms can occasionally manifest even earlier, in ways that we may not even be aware are neurological. This leads us to the last warning indicator: subtle, odd shifts in your thoughts or behavior. Subtle neurological changes warning sign number 7. Have you ever experienced an unexpected loss of balance? Or had a round of nausea, disorientation, or even difficulty walking, but dismissed it as unimportant? One of the easiest stroke warning signals to be overlooked is subtle neurological changes. They whisper danger rather than yelling emergency. Sudden lightheadedness, loss of coordination, unexplained nausea, vomiting, transient memory loss, or an unusual sense of disorientation are some examples of these symptoms. They may occur days or weeks before to a significant stroke. An elderly man is swaying and gripping a railing as he walks. B-roll of a person forgetting their usual home route. Misfiring brain areas with less blood supply are animated. Because these symptoms overlap with things like migraines, low blood sugar, stress, or fatigue, people often wait too long to get help. The truth is that even slight neurological alterations may indicate that the brain is having trouble functioning. It's serious even if you don't pass out or collapse. If something about how you feel, move, or think feels off, especially if it's sudden, trust your instinct and get checked. Now that we've discussed the 7 warning signals, what causes them specifically? And how does a brain aneurysm differ from a conventional stroke or a mini-stroke? Let's dissect it, since identifying the reason is equally as important as identifying the symptoms. Comprehend the causes: cerebral hemorrhage, cerebral obstruction, and ischemic stroke. Let's begin with ischemic stroke, which makes up around 85% of all occurrences and is the most prevalent kind. It happens when a blood clot narrows or plugs an artery, preventing blood flow to a portion of the brain. This blockage may form directly in the brain or travel from other parts of the body, like the heart, especially in conditions such as atrial fibrillation, where blood flow becomes irregular and clot-prone. Neurons start to perish from a lack of oxygen within minutes when blood cannot reach brain tissue. For this reason, when treating a stroke, time is of the essence. Arteries narrow over time until they become obstructed. Brain cell animation that fades as blood flow is cut off. Split screen displaying a clot ascending to the brain and atrial fibrillation in the cardiac rhythm. Then comes hemorrhagic stroke, which is less frequent but more lethal. This happens when one of the brain's weaker blood vessels bursts, causing blood to spill into nearby tissue. The pressure has nowhere to go because the brain is housed inside the skull. Rapid swelling might result in brain cell destruction, coma, or even death. The brain aneurysm, which is a balloon-like bulging in a blood vessel wall, is a common cause of hemorrhagic stroke. It frequently doesn't show any signs until it explodes. Internal hemorrhage causes edema in this brain cross-section. Animated aneurysm that grows gradually before bursting. Overlay for emergency response. There are congenital aneurysms. Others arise gradually as a result of vascular weakening or elevated blood pressure. What matters, though, is that even if you feel completely healthy, you should get frequent neurological examinations if you have a family history of brain aneurysms. So you know the mechanics now. However, what are the real ways to avoid having a stroke? Let's talk about prevention, the routines that could preserve your life and brain. You are aware of the indications now. You know the dangers. The most compelling aspect of this movie, however, is that stroke is mostly preventable. Genetics isn't the only factor. It has to do with everyday choices. Your dish, your daily schedule, your attitude. The most important modifiable risk factor is blood pressure, so start by managing it. Keep a constant eye on it. As directed, take your prescription drugs. Reduce consumption of processed foods and salt. Exercise. Even 30 minutes a day of walking can improve circulation and protect your heart and brain. Consume entire foods such as nuts, seeds, fatty fish, berries, and leafy greens. These support vascular health and lessen inflammation. Get a good night's sleep. Give up smoking. Don't drink too much. Additionally, work closely with your physician to control any conditions you may have, such as diabetes or atrial fibrillation. A person strolling, eating a salad, measuring their blood pressure, taking their prescription, and sleeping soundly are all depicted in this montage of everyday healthy routines. The words, "every habit matters," are superimposed. A stroke can change your life in a matter of minutes, but what you do now can change the outcome forever. Please like this video and, more importantly, share it if it was helpful. Without ever realizing it, you could save someone's life. To receive more life-saving health insights, subscribe to Wisdom and Wellness. Please leave a comment below if you or a loved one have encountered any of these warning indicators. Let's spread awareness, empower action, and protect our brains together.